enough marketing over there. Neil McEwen, he a slightly different view to those we've had so far, I suppose. He says, poor idea. It probably won't be marketed correctly. Fans will travel, but no way near enough to fill the stadium. Dirt Road Cowboy, who is sort of based in America, he says, I'm very excited to see how much of a league community we have in the States. Honestly, it's been non-existent most of my life. I went to the Wire v Saints game in '89, and that was it. I think he means Wire v Wigan, but Wigan kind of had a Saints-ish looking shirt on in that game. They
Red
should
and
have
white.
chosen. Yeah, he says though they should have chosen Dick's Sporting Goods Stadium where the soccer team plays. It's a modern 18k seater. Carsten Brummer at Swiss underscore cowboy underscore 78, our friend from Europe, said, I like the idea. It's time that somebody starts to grow the game. You need to start now if you want to have crowds at the Rugby League World Cup 2025. Hopefully it gets promoted the right way and they will get a decent crowd and TV exposure over there. Mark Needler, now this kind of tweet came in about something else, but I thought it fitted in with this. So thanks for getting in touch, Mark. If you want to get around Mark on Twitter, it's at MJFN86. But good to hear from you, Mark. He says, if there's a mid-season international game, I hope all Super League clubs don't have a fixture and we can have football's equivalent of a non-league day. Some great self-promotion at the minute by clubs in the lower divisions to attract matchday pointers. So that's looking at the bigger effect that we'll get on to chatting about what these kind of things can have. Bob Phillips said, altitude sickness surely can't be a great way to start an international, can it? Heading out to play RL in the Saints, I think, is a great idea, as the US probably won't know what good RL looks like, and an international will have a superficial draw above a club game, I think, despite the fact that it might actually have been a better game to have Leeds play Hull or Wigan. Then Tim G, our co-host from last week, he said, not sure Denver is where I'd have picked, Chicago, New York or Boston, but would be good to watch. His suggestions, but it would be good to watch. Hope they don't put it on a weird pay-per-view again. So there's a load of range of views there, covering the idea as a concept in itself, the reason for starting going now, where it's being played, and then what else we can do that weekend to help grow the game a bit more over here too. So where do you want to start on that one, Alan?
Okay, I'm going to pick up with Tim's point. I think he just wants to go to Chicago, New York, or Boston. Um, but obviously, on a practical point, well, not so much Chicago, but certainly New York and Boston are obviously a lot closer in terms of flight time. Because the first thing I did as soon as I saw this story is flights Manchester to Denver. How do you get there? How long does it take? And all this kind of thing.
You probably have to
Um,
fly to Chicago or New York and then swap.
Yeah, well, the one I was suggesting was changing it in New York and then onto Denver from there. So it's about 12, 13 hours depending on your connections and stuff. But what was really interesting was, and something I've read that hasn't been picked up here specifically, is around actually, obviously, we look at this and go, oh, can we go? And obviously, a fantastic stadium. I would love to go. It's one of those stadiums that I want to go to. Obviously, I know we're both American football fans. We know
Yeah,
the stadiums. I'd love to go to Mile High. I think it would be a fantastic experience.
be part of the
But
Orange Crush though, not necessarily go and watch a rugby game maybe.
well, this is the thing, but I think we're obviously thinking about it from our perspective, but from an organisation point of view, from the 2025 World Cup, they're wanting to start to market the game to US sport fans and North American sport fans. They want them to come to this game as much as they'd like to see some kind of either expats or kind of people coming over for the game, from either side of the world. They want to attract locals. They want to attract people who have never seen
Yeah,
either code of rugby, probably, which is somebody's picked up about they've never seen either code. So I liked the poster. I like the tie into kind of some of the American
well
football
that's it. They don't seem to be
analogies and that
going
kind of thing.
after. They don't seem to be going after that sort of rugby expat target audience that maybe we would have in our head expected them to go after. And I think that's what some of these other ideas of these other franchises and stuff will go after that we're talking about expanding on. the competition with New York, Boston, whatever. But they're actually going for NFL fans in the NFL off season. The no blocking, no pads, six downs. That's
Yeah.
all NFL stuff to sell the thing to NFL fans. And not a lot, I know people think our game's going soft and stuff like that, but NFL fans think their game's going soft too. So to see blokes running that fast at each other without pads is a big selling point for rugby league
Yeah.
over in America, I think.
I
So
think
that's a good point to
the
raise.
timing's really crucial as well, isn't it? Because June is literally the death of American football, isn't it? In terms of there's nothing to talk about. So it's post draft.
Yeah,
It's
pre-training camp.
pre-training camp. So you can't even, they're not really in the speculation about who's going to get cut type of
There's
spot,
no.
are there?
It is the 1 month where all the NFL media people have a month off, isn't it? Of the whole year.
Yeah.
The rest of the
Yeah.
year they've got something going on. Yeah, exactly.
There's something going on.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in the US,
I don't even think you get any mini camps because they happen in May. The rookie mini camps, I think, end of May. So yeah, it is the lull month. I was thinking
it's
that's
the
a
big
good
lull.
point.
Yeah, and
no one else has picked
obviously
up on that, have they? It's a good
no.
point.
I mean, it works for us, being a mid-season thing. I think, yeah, it's just an intriguing concept, and it strikes me as being incredibly ambitious. Yes, they could have booked the 18,000 seater and kind of sold it out, hopefully. But out of the 18,000, how many of those fans would be potentially new fans?
That's the problem. You'd be shutting out the ability to sell cheap tickets to a new audience, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know how big Mile High is. I mean, is it 60, 70?
65,000, I think, capacity.
65.
They're aiming at 35 to 45,000. I would say if they got 40,000 in, that would be a good result.
I mean, obviously that you could kind of maybe not open the top layer and kind of have a really good kind of atmosphere down in the bowl, and that would kind of really, you wouldn't pick up any kind of lack of atmosphere, would you? If it's
no, because the cameras don't have to pan that high, do they? Necessarily.
No, and it's one of those things that if you for the first game, if you got 30,000 people in a city that there's no history of league in it whatsoever, that would be a fantastic achievement. And if that is $10 tickets, or I have no idea what the pricing structure is, but
and in terms of like the TV angle thing as well, that Tim and a couple of other people picked on, I don't think we're not the target market for this. Like you say, it's not aiming at people to travel over, although they'll be glad for people who do travel over. It's not aiming at selling the game to us, because let's be honest, we've got this game 3 times at the end of this year. We don't need necessarily another one of this game. So whatever platform they release it through to us to see, I don't think that's not the issue here. It's not about us. So we need to get it out of our heads that this is about England and New Zealand fans in England and New Zealand. This is about the game finding a bit of a market, testing itself, seeing what sort of crowds, what sort of cities. Go to a sports city, not a city that's got so much other stuff to compete with. Like New York, obviously, Boston to a slightly lesser extent, and Chicago to a slightly lesser extent. But they're big towns that have got everything to take people's minds off in a weekend in the summer.
Exactly.
I mean, at Chicago, you've got basically an ocean next to you, because that's how big the bloody lake is up there, and it's got loads of lovely beaches and stuff that people might go to on a summer's day, because they only get about 1 month of warm weather a year. So this is a way of attracting a different and seeing what other cities work. And I'm really interested to see if going to a city with a sporting culture with a rugby gap in it would be something that would work, because that might set the model for the American league that hopefully will follow from the World Cup in 7 years' time.
Exactly. It's forward thinking, planning 3 games.
You can move those games around.
It just strikes me that it's the we're in a position where a New York team starting in a couple of years' time, then
we're having a bit of sound quality difficulties here.
There, wow. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, it's just breaking up a little bit, but people will bear with us with that, because that's what's going to happen nowadays. Sorry, so I didn't catch what you were saying. You were talking about the audience and stuff.
Just I've lost my flow as well, honestly.
Right, let's move on to the next news
And just
story then, shall
it
we?
strikes me as being yeah. Let's do that. Let's talk about a legend coming out of retirement, shall we? Mickey Ham has come out of retirement and re-signed for Championship strugglers. There's part of me that really likes seeing Championship strugglers Lee Centurions. It's really bad. It's really bad, but they anyway. Hyam, who captained Lee during their season in Super League in 2017, has signed a deal until the end of the current season to temporarily end his retirement and help his hometown club out. The Centurions are currently without hookers Daniel Mortimer and Kurt Baptiste, the best name in rugby league, the latter of which was officially released from the club over the weekend and is expected to find a deal back in the NRL. I didn't even know he'd signed for them, to be honest with you.
He played one game. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, so it all seems a little bit surreal, he said. When Kieran asked me to look at the possibility of coming back as a player, I was really excited and I got butterflies in my stomach. Sounds like a little girl. It felt like I did when I first signed professional forms for Lee as a teenager, and I thought that if I still got that feeling, then the desire was still there. I've made no secret that I never wanted to retire, and 2 or 3 clubs have inquired about my services, but I turned them down. I said to Derek and Kieran today that I wasn't holding out for Lee, that something was burning inside me that told me an opportunity may come up. It's not an easy time for the club at the moment, but people who know me know how much Lee means to me. I care deeply about the place, and the last time I played in a competitive match, I was in floods of tears after relegation. We've had a poor start to the season, and it's not good enough for the standards we've set and the crowds we get. Rugby league in Lee means such a lot to a lot of people, and hopefully by coming back, I'll be able to influence things on and off the field and demonstrate to the players here that they're at a great club. I think that's an interesting sentence at the end.
Yeah.
It's almost to me like you players, you don't care as much as I care, and I'm going to come and I'm
challenging
going
the
to show
culture
you.
in it in that squad at the moment as it stands. Yeah, Tim Griffiths, Tim G at Tim G Radio said, almost seems a shame that he's come back, as he seemed to have had a nice ending against Wigan, but it seems good news for Lee. So yeah, that to me, like you pick up on that last bit, that's really relevant to me because I thought the culture seems to have gone a bit at Lee. We were talking a bit about this last week and stuff, how they've brought in a load of players who maybe have settled for playing in the Championship because there were some players who had it Super League interest. People like Kurt Baptiste. People, like the Matautia and people like that. And
Yeah,
so maybe there's a question mark over the culture, and I think that's one thing getting Mickey Hyam. He was already around the club because he was working for the foundation, wasn't he? The Lee Centurions Foundation in the community there. But getting him back in
yeah.
that dressing room, especially when they've lost someone so intrinsically linked to the club that cared so much in Neil Jukes, the coach. I think that's an important move, and I think that's the most relevant thing to pick up on there. Getting him in around that dressing room. What do you think about how he might be able to go for them on the pitch?
Well, he's not long retired, is he? I mean, I think from a physical point of view, I don't think he'll really have an issue. Obviously, he seems to be up for it, which is the most important thing. Particularly at this kind of level, he's got all the skill, he's got all the experience that he can call upon. Because they are in a hole. They're losing games against teams who they expect to be competing with to get in the top 4. Losing against Featherstone, spoiler alert. That kind of those kind of results are they're crucial. And 23 games isn't a lot. Very quickly you can get to a position where you're counting yourself out of finishing in the top 2 even. So they're definitely going to be in a fight, and he's probably not a bad player to have in the trenches with you, to be honest. But
I'm not sure.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm not sure that he's lost too much from last year.
I wouldn't expect so,
because last year he was reasonable. He wasn't exactly explosive. Didn't play all the games and didn't play all the minutes. But when I watched the game against Wigan for his testimonial, he didn't